Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame. So before I get into this recap review, I just wanted to quickly let y'all know that the obituary is in the process of being made for my uncle, who I told y'all passed away towards the end of last week, because today is the beginning of the new week. My aunt is all right. My cousins are okay. Just continue to lift us up in prayer. I called my mama today and was talking to her like I normally do. I normally call her Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And since I'd worked all weekend and I was tired, I was like, let me just wait until Sunday. So I called her, and while we were in the middle of our conversation, my aunt called. So she clicked over. And then not long after that, she clicked back over to talk to me and told me that my aunt was on the phone, and she actually basically was like, I just called to ask you to ask your husband if he'll walk me in, when your funeral is going on, how the family comes in, the processional and all that stuff. And my mama was like, I already had that planned out to be what it was going to be anyway. And like, people don't understand that despite the fact that my mama is not blood related to them, of course, because that's my daddy and we don't believe in the incest, several of the family members who are not on some foolishness, they depend on my mama for certain things because my mama gets things done. And my mama actually got up and cooked and baked things and sent it up there to her house and all that, so that my aunt doesn't have to worry about cooking. And as I mentioned before, this is the same aunt who my cousin, the youngest child that they had a stroke like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And my grandmother passed away 3 years ago, which is her mama. And she was taking care of her. So yeah, she's had a whole lot to happen within these last 3 years. So yeah, continue to keep her kids, and the rest of my family in your prayers. I really do appreciate y'all checking in on me and being who y'all are. I really do appreciate it, like for real. Okay, y'all, so let's go on ahead and get into this recap review. Y'all, Kiesha came home from the hospital, and y'all, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this is a heavy episode. When I tell y'all, I had moments where I teared up because it directly related to me and things that have happened to me. I had to just be like, okay, calm down, because it kind of took me back to a place that I've been myself in real life. So yeah, y'all, she came home from the hospital, and of course Dre and her mama were like, if you need anything, just let us know. So she went in her room, and instead of her going to sleep, y'all, she went and got a chair, propped it up under the door handle, looked out of the window, making sure nobody was there, and went and grabbed a pair of scissors, sat on the floor in front of her bed, and watched the window. Paranoid all night, did not sleep. And I was just like, Lord, I'm telling y'all, I was like, oh my gosh. I had to tell myself, get through this episode, because if I pause it right now, I feel like I'm gonna pause it for the rest of this week until it's time to watch the newest episode next week, which is this week. Y'all, oh Lord, I was like, somebody please. But yeah, she's paralyzed with fear. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just too much. She's been so traumatized. This is too much. She has PTSD. This is way too much. So y'all, 3 days later, because at this point, Kiesha ain't been taking a shower. She has not eaten. She has done nothing. She hasn't even come out of the room in like 3 days. Dre and Nina are talking, and Dre, y'all already know, she was like a counselor at school. She's trying to convince her mama to go on ahead and get her to see somebody. She needs therapy, like now. And she's like, no, she can go whenever she's ready if she wants to talk to somebody. And I'm like, girl, you are the parent. I understand that Kiesha is like 17, 18, or 19 years old. But y'all need to get out of that thinking. She needs to go. This is something that is very, very important. People snap. and they have moments and they go into deep, dark places where if it goes far enough to where they have not seen somebody and every little thing triggers them, like she's at the point of, you might not be able to pull them back out of that darkness. Like, that's how far gone it can get. So I'm gonna need for people to get out of that way of thinking. It is bad. Dre, this whole episode, has been trying to convince her wife to go on ahead and get her into therapy. Like, this is too much, y'all. So, y'all, she finally comes out of her room and she want to go to the bathroom. Kevin in the bathroom. Her mama make him get out of the bathroom, and he was like, I just got in here. Man, she made him raise up out of there. She went in there. So Kiesha goes in there and she turns the shower on and she's just running the water. And it's, at this point, she's just trying to make people think she's taking a shower. She's not bathing. She's not washing her face. She's not brushing her teeth. She's not combing her hair. She'll go in there with a robe on. And this is the first time in a while we've seen her. She disrobes and all you see is bruises all over her body. She is so small. And I'm like, for Omari to have been as big as he is, first of all, you're a man. Second of all, you are like double and triple the size of Kiesha. You doing the most. You done beat her down. You done did the most. And I know that the scuffle and all that other stuff happened, but he was very, very angry with her and he was yanking her up before all this stuff happened when Ronnie came in and saved her. So, man, her body was so bruised up. Oh my gosh, I teared up. I said, no, oh my gosh, it's too much. Y'all, Dre took it upon herself to invite over one of Kiesha's friends, and she didn't even run it by her mama. So she was like, what is we doing? Who is that? She was like, I felt like it would be, healthy for her to see one of her friends, to have some sort of normalcy. And Lord, here we go again. She was talking about those are my kids. And so Dre looking like, okay, when is it going to become our kids? Like, how long are we going to be married before we can say our kids? Because Dre is really there for them kids. She is here for them. And she really is a very, very much so needed authoritative figure in that household. And like, she be putting her foot down and I'm here for it. Like, especially as of late, like she has been really here for them kids. And I'm like, girl, you better be lucky you got somebody like that in your life, because their daddy's not there. They don't have a male figure in their life. Dre is there and doing what she's supposed to do. Take what you can get. Be glad somebody care about your kids outside of you. Y'all, oh Lord. So the girl that stopped by, why this girl go to Kiesha's door and was like, hey girl, oh, I'm glad to see you ain't dead. I see you not dead. She was like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not dead either. I was like, oh my gosh, girl, you have no couth. I'm just so tired. So they go in the room and she offered to do her hair. And at first she was like, nah, I'm good. And so she was like, girl, I know you lying. And so she starts like braiding her hair and they get into it. And Kiesha has actually been obsessed over comments that have been made on the internet about her and the kidnapping and, just in general, because people have heard things about her. And, oh Lord, the friend did an interview and Kiesha ended up pulling information off and had been printing stuff like crazy about the whole case from start to finish. And she read off what she said about her. She was like, look, you're secretive. Like, I mean, you're so secretive. It's like, you do what you do. And, you could kind of tell old girl was like in her feelings because she was dating the track coach. They got into it. And then the girl ended up having to leave. She done went off on her and told her to get out. I was like, Lord, this is too much. So after this happens, the girl gone, she was like, man, I can't wait to go to college. And so that's when she finds out that her scholarship has been given away. So at this point, Kiesha looking like, what? Like, what you mean? Man, she done went in the room. She done tore everything off the wall. All of her awards, all of her plaques. She done threw all of them on the floor everywhere. And she's crying, distraught. It is bad. I'm like, Lord. Y'all, Jake and Papa were allowed to come over because at this point, they don't really want either one of them to leave the house. The most been going on. And it is best that everybody stay together for right now. So he was like, oh, okay, I'm glad you allowed them to come over. He already had them outside at the door waiting. And so allowed them to come in. They went in his room and they were going to play the Xbox. I, of course, side-eyed that because I'm not here for Xbox. But anyway. But Jake sat up here and brought him a vape pen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all doing the most. Y'all, Dre and Nina are going all the way through. To the point where Nina sleeps out on the couch at night. Like, Dre will wake up in the middle of the night and they have gone to bed together, or they never were in the bed together at all because she thinks that she's going to come around and just come and get in the bed. No, she's sleeping on the couch. Like, she's done. Like, they get into arguments. Like, this whole situation has really already put a rift in their marriage, and they are just freshly married. Like, I'm like, Lord, this is too much. Y'all, so Emmett and Jada ended up stopping by, talking about, oh, we were in the neighborhood, so, we brought you some food. Dom, or whatever she wanted to call herself, Dominique. She, cooked up some food, and big trays of food, mind you. I was like, Lord, y'all will eat off that about a week and a half, 2 weeks. But yeah, y'all, they brought the food over, and y'all know that Jada and Dre are like really close friends or whatever. And so Emmett wanted to see Kiesha, and they tried to make it seem like she was asleep. So he was like, is Kevin here? And he was like, they were like, yeah, he in his room. So he went in there to go talk to him, see what he was had going on. And that's when he found out that Keisha's not asleep, and that she spends most of her days in her room staring at the wall. And so you can tell that Emmett is genuinely concerned, and he ain't here for y'all. It got to the point where he just went straight over to her door, knocked on the door. She came to the door, and he was like, I'm happy to see you or whatever, and hugged her. And then she took his hand and they went in the room. Dre wasn't here for it, but then he was like, man, calm down. Be glad that, at this point, it's like, be glad that she's responding to somebody. Like, because she ain't really talking to nobody. So just be glad. And they used to date. So it's like, come on now. That's a friendly face, even though he was trifling and trash when it came to the relationship part. But he really does genuinely care about her. He really does genuinely love her, as he's already expressed earlier in this season. And he really does want the best for her. And he was so, distraught when he heard about her being kidnapped. Y'all, so, they had a little conversation. He was like, look, okay, well, I know, you got things going on, and I know you don't really want to talk. I'm just glad I was able to put my eyes on you. That sounds just like me. I really do that to people. I'm like, well, I just wanted to put my eyes on you, because I will roll up on you. Like, I will roll up on you. Like, one of my friends, she lives clear across the other side of town, and I'll be like, what you doing? Pre-virus. I'll be like, what you doing? Oh, okay. If we hadn't seen each other for whatever reason, especially if I know she's gone through depression, I'll be like, oh, okay, I ain't got time. So, where are you? What we gonna do? And we'll, link up, go somewhere, have a margarita. And I'm like, girl, I just had to put my eyes on you. I ain't know what was going on. One of my other friends live over an hour away. I had to put my eyes on her too. I don't have time. So that's what he did. And I was like, yeah, that's me. I do that. So anyway, they had a little conversation. And so she was like, I clearly do not want to talk about what is going on with me. You need to tell me about what's going on with you. And so he was like, well, everything good with me and Tiffany. And so she was like, no, it's not. I used to date you. So I know you lying. So then he fessed up to the fact that he cheated on her with the girl who cooks the food that works for him. And he was like, dang. She was just like, dang, the food that good, ain't it? She know her way around the kitchen, don't it? Like, they doing the most. So y'all, Kiesha is in her feelings because, like I told y'all before, people are online talking that cash money. And Emmett was like, don't pay attention to none of that. Don't even look at none of that stuff. And so at one point in time, he apologized to her. And she was like, what you apologizing to me for? You don't need to apologize. And he feels as though if they were in a relationship, that none of this would have ever happened to her. And she was like, no, you would have been cheated, doing the most. And so I'm glad that we're not together. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, y'all understand what he's saying when he say that. Y'all, at this point, Jake and Kevin are beyond high. And I'm just like, oh my God. Y'all, the parents are talking, and Dre is still trying to get Nina to agree to Kiesha seeing somebody. And just letting her know it is necessary. Like right now, sometimes you got to push people, and this is true. And she was like, well, have you ever been through something like this before? Has anybody ever violated you? And Dre was like, no. And so she was like, well, you will never understand. And in that moment, if you didn't gather, you could tell that she's been through things before. And Dre was like, just because you're still broken doesn't mean that Kiesha has to be like this. And like, I'm just like, girl, you need to go get therapy right now. Like right now. Shoot, you going all the way through. So, y'all, Kiesha has not eaten. Like, she has not eaten. And since she's had that conversation with Emmett about, old girl and the food and all this other stuff, she came out of the room. And at this point now, in the other room, all three of the friends are now high. I don't know if Papa had a contact high or if he finally gave in and started partaking of the vape pen, but he is high and hearing things and doing the most. And so he was like, y'all smell that? All of them getting hungry because you already know what supposedly goes on when you are high and all of that. I hear you get the munchies. I've never smoked a day in my life, so I don't know nothing about all of that. But they smelled food. This was Emmett warming up food. So he had a big plate of food. He actually warmed the food up and he took it over to Kiesha. And she was like, okay, I see what you mean. So the parents are in the room and they're talking. And they were talking earlier, but at this point they're just sitting there. Then they hear laughter. It's Kiesha laughing. And so they were like, is that Kiesha? And so they got up, rushed in there, and they saw her having a good time because Emmett was just talking to her like nothing crazy and all the way was happening. Y'all know how trifling he is, but nothing crazy was going on. And so we're talking and laughing, and it just seemed like it was amazing. Everybody was in there eating. Everybody was in there. Emmett, Jada, Dre, Nina, Papa, Jake, and Kevin. They were all in there eating and having a good time. Then out of nowhere, Lord, the drama popped off. Papa was in his feelings. So kind of like when he was on the verge of getting high, or when he actually did get high, he felt guilty about the tips that he'd been given because Omari was the one who had been giving him big tips. And so at this point, he doesn't know if he was doing it because he knew he was wrong and he was already doing the most. Jake had gotten tips, but he hadn't been tipping Kevin. And that might have been a part of it. But yeah, he was doing the most. And so he felt guilty about having all that money. Y'all, he came to the table with the money and he had the money. I was like, Lord have mercy, why did he say this? So he done came to the table, put the money on the table. And he was like, I can't use this money. I can't keep this money. This is the money that is from your kidnapper. Oh, Lord. I was like, boy. And I know he's a child, but I just wanted to backhand him real quick, like a good look, pop real quick in the mouth. I was like, oh, my gosh, no, you didn't. So she was like, I don't want that. And he was like, well, I don't want it either. I'm just trying to let you know that I'm not going to use it. I don't want that money. I'm not going to use that. Y'all, all of a sudden, it's just something that triggered her, and she went off on everybody. She was like, why did it take y'all so long to find me? I was just up the street. I was like, oh my gosh, no. Like, she done went all the way off. Lord, a whole argument ensued, and Kevin ended up diming everybody out, talking about some, well, y'all over here done packed up her room, thinking she was dead. I was like, oh my gosh. So she was like, oh wow, this is what we do. So she was done. So then Kevin, he tied because everything that has been happening with his sister is now having a ripple effect on him. So he's trying to work with them, but at the same time, they are so overly cautious now that it's just making him annoyed and just frustrated with everything. And he done went off on everybody. He said, F this, and went in his room and put his music in his ears. His mama came right after him and told him that you better go in there and apologize to your sister right now And she threatened to like backhand him, slap him and some more. And then like she sat down and apologized to him and was like, look, this is a time we all need to be together. A lot has happened. We're going through a lot. And he was like, we all going through a lot. We all going through this. So y'all, the most is just going on. I'm just like, Lord. Y'all, Jada went and talked to Kiesha. Because at this point, everybody else is off in other rooms talking or in the kitchen eating. So, you know, Emma was like, well, do you think this is a good time? And she was like, yeah. So she went in Keisha's room and was talking to her. And y'all, it was another moment where I had to gather myself. So we learned that Jada has been sexually assaulted, molested, raped by a family member. And Keisha's looking at her like, wow. You know, because like a lot of people, if you have not been through this, ain't nobody trying to hear you. Like nobody is trying to hear you. So for her to look at this person, look where she's come from, you would never think just by looking at her and the things that she's doing that helps the community that she's been through something like this. So she's looking at her like, wow, okay. Jada reveals that because these things happened to her, that prompted her to go into social work. And I was just like, wow, this is me. This is me. Like, this is crazy. Like, I was like, stop it. Stop. Like, this is literally me. And like, I never knew. Like, I knew that that was my purpose. I know that that's what I'm here to do. And someday in the near future, I will be back into social work and I'm excited about it. But with this virus, it's kind of tricky how it's going to go. But I don't know. I'm not fearful of getting anything. It's just the capacity in which I was doing it because I was a child protective services social worker, which means I had to go out into these people's houses and be very present and in people's faces. And yeah, whether it was in courtrooms, in people's houses, like I already said, in doctors' offices, at hospitals, in jails, visiting people. Like I had to be out there in the community, like for real. So, whew, it's a lot, and I've been mulling it over, and I'm being careful. So I am working my way back, but I'm being careful now that that is another added variable, y'all. So yeah, when Jada did this scene, I was just like, okay, let me calm down. It made me tear up again because that is literally me. And I feel like that's why I was so good at my job when I was actively a social worker. But yeah, I digress. Yeah, but Kiesha at this point is like, you know, how long does it take to feel normal again? And Jada's like, you're going to be waiting a long time. So eventually, Kiesha is taking baths and all this other stuff. And we see a scene happen where she's actually soaking in the tub. And I'm like, okay. Y'all, Ronnie stopped by. And he had to be like, look, Kiesha asked me to come over. So I was like, oh my gosh. Because I was like, wait a minute, he done went off. But she actually asked him to come over. And they were talking. And she was like, I just feel like I owe you my life. And he was just like, no, you know, I'm just glad to have been able to be of service. And so she's trying to understand how she is supposed to be able to go through life after she's killed someone. Because, you know, everybody know he done killed. So he was like, I see the person who I killed. I see their face all the time. And she was like, I can't go to sleep because he haunts me. I don't understand. I know he's dead, but I can't even go to sleep. Like, I can't function. And he was just like, look, you're going to get through this. Just don't drown your sorrows in brown liquor. And I was just like, hallelujah, because you be doing the most. And he was just like, look, you've given my life new meaning. And I was like, okay then, Ronnie, because y'all know I ain't never really been here for Ronnie. But anyway, y'all, Kiesha put all of her provocative clothes and her awards and medals and plaques, all the stuff that she feels is connected in some way to what has happened to her. She put it in a trash bag, took it into the bathroom, dumped it out in the tub, put lighter fluid on it, and set it on fire. So I was like, first of all, I mean, I understand that this is a TV show, but in my mind, I was like, the shower curtain is right there. Wait a minute, this whole this whole building finna go down. But you know, whatever. So the smoke seeps out. Her mama smells it. She was like, oh no. She done went in the bathroom. She sees the stuff on fire, and she was like, Kiesha. And you know, at first she was trying to turn the water on, and she was like, no. So she just let the stuff burn. She was like, Kiesha, I see what's in here. Just because you put that stuff in there, that's not going to, you know, save you or make it seem as though, you know, these things didn't happen. And so she was like, you know, I'm sorry I wasn't there to save you. And she was like, well, that's all right. You don't have to apologize. I saved myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, no. Y'all, the amazing thing about this is that at the end of the episode, they were finally able to get her to start going to counseling sessions. That's the end of this episode, y'all.